Okay, friends and neighbors and people from around the world, welcome to another episode of the world of the IETF RFC. Kind of. This one's not really going to be about the IETF at all, because last time we talked about the TCPIP model or the UDPIP model, which comes to us from the IETF, but I thought I'd take a look at the other side of the fence this time. So the other model that we're talking about here is the ISO model, or the ISO OSI model, Open Systems Interconnection, and it's also called our reference model. Remember that this comes from a time when there were lots of models and we were trying to figure out a way to get protocols to communicate with other protocols at the same layer. And so this OSI model was sometimes used to sort of get things to match up. But the ISO model actually has a couple of different standards associated with it. So I don't really want to go through the whole model today. We'll do a quick pick of it, but I thought I'd talk more about the organizations because, of course, that's what this little series is about. So the ISO is an organization that handles a lot of standards, and they are, as the name indicates, an international standards organization. So just like the IETF, I would encourage you to go out there and take a look at the ISO site, but related to the ISO is the IEC, or the International Electrotechnical Commission. And again, it is an international standards body. In fact, their website refers to the the ISO, the IEC, and the ITU as sister organizations. So you see a lot of cross-pollination between them. So the OSI model is actually standardized in ISO IEC 7498-1. And it dates from 1994, and they keep reviewing it, but they keep just saying, yep, it's fine. So that's why there hasn't been any real changes. So you can actually go out to the ISO site and search for either the model or that particular standard. And you'll actually find it out there on the site. And of course, here is our 7-layer model. This is an image right from the standard, and it shows, the model that we've come to know and love all of these years. And of course, we recall that the TCPIP model is actually a 5-layer model that collapses or compresses session, presentation, and application together. Okay, wait a minute. What is that other sister organization? The ITUT. So the International Telecommunications Union Telecom Standardization Sector can be found out there. And again, go out there and take a look. You can actually see the recommendations. And while if you go over to the ISO site and want to download the standard over there, they'll actually charge you a little bit for it. But if you go over to the ITUT site, you can download the recommendation, which is X.200, for free. So I put here a quote that's right from the standard. So in some areas of information technology which fall within the ITUT's purview, the necessary standards are prepared on a collaborative basis. Okay, so that's why this standard is listed in both places, because there are a lot of aspects of the standard that fall under the purview also of electrotechnical standardization committees. So that's kind of where they are. So that's why the two standards are the exact same document. Now, a little bit more about the ITUT. They have a lot of recommendations that we actually use. As the name would indicate, we're talking about telecommunications here. So whether we want to admit it or not, a lot of our data communication standards come from the telecom background. And so you go out there and you see that we sort of copied a lot of the ways that they do things. Because, hey, why reinvent the wheel? So you can actually go out to the ITUT site and get a list in a drop-down box of all of the available recommendations. Now, there are hundreds of them, and they're organized by these letter-based categories. So you VoIP folks might want to go out and take a look at the G series or the H series that define the codecs. The P series is about operation, and so you can see some of these other standards here. Okay, this particular standard is X.200. And so if you just scroll a little farther down the list, there you have it. And there's our Open Systems Interconnection Basic Reference Model, which was the exact same standard. So you can actually just go out there and download the thing directly. So this is about organizations and about standards really, and not about, an explanation of what the models are. But I thought it worthwhile to talk about one other thing, and that is usage. Now, if you do a capture and look for protocols or standards that are not from the IETF TCPIP model, you just don't find much. And that's actually simply the way it is. And this is why I spend most of my time talking about the TCPIP model. This is a protocol distribution from 200,000 packets. And you can see in here, there are no X series protocols, which is what most of this comes from. There are no telecommunications standards protocols in this particular capture. If I did VoIP, we'd see something different, maybe. But that doesn't mean they're not out there. So while they're not the lion's share of our protocols, they do sort of get involved, or they're folded into some other operation. And the example that I'll give you is the directory services and some cryptography. So if you know anything about, or if you spend any time with certificates, you know that we have certificates that are called X.509s. That standard comes from the ITUT. So the way that we do certificates on modern communication systems that run on IETF protocols is from an ITUT recommendation. So there you have it. So it turns out that a lot of our directory services use standards that hail from a completely different standards body. So this has been the Open Systems Interconnection model, and we know now that it's standardized in two different places, but they're really the same document. And we also remember that a lot of the ways that we do things on the IETF side come from ideas that were listed in these other standards. Now, just because we don't see them doesn't mean that we should ignore them altogether. If you actually take a look through the OSI model, you'll actually see a phenomenal amount of discussion about how we do things and why we do things. So it makes good reading for anybody that's really trying to understand communication flow. Well, thanks for watching, and hey, maybe doing a little bit of learning too. May your packets always reach their destinations.